Would you use an old historical map to orient yourself in today's world? Climate change and other global challenges compel us to rethink how we approach both education and knowledge. It's time to shift from old static perspectives, such as the one of the old geographic map, to a new dynamic ecosystem-based view. And we have to learn how to do it, starting from school. Climademy offers a compass to guide teaching about climate change, a competence framework that helps define educational goals, expected learning outcomes, and evaluation tools. The Climademy competence framework is organized into 4 key areas: values building, scientific inquiring, envisioning, and acting. These areas expand on the GreenCom framework, which includes embodying sustainability values, embracing complexity in sustainability, envisioning sustainable futures, and acting for sustainability. Climademy builds in this by incorporating specific knowledge, skills, and attitudes related to climate change. The transitions those frameworks aim to foster requires stepping out of our comfort zone to create new sustainable balances. It requires us to accept uncertainty, ambiguity, and discomfort. Philippe Petit, the artist who walked on a wire between the Twin Towers in 1974, said that when the wire shakes, one wants to forcefully impose calm on it, but instead, one must move with gentleness without disturbing the song of the rope. One must not strive to stand still, but gain ground. In climate change education, we need to dare, like a tightrope walker, to act forward, to search for a new equilibrium.
In Climademy, we have developed a pedagogical model that is a set of frameworks taken from the research in science education. These frameworks have been selected and elaborated in order to support teachers in dealing with the complexity of teaching climate change. In particular, these frameworks have been selected and elaborated to support the teachers in creating 2 types of nets. The first net is a relational one, a relational network. A network among teachers, also from different disciplines in their school, among different schools, and with external stakeholders, consistently to an open schooling view. The second net is, metaphorically speaking, a safety net made of knowledge, the knowledge that is needed in order to feel safer in accepting the challenge to teach climate change. Let's see in more detail these 2 types of nets. The relational network. This is crucial since climate change is an intrinsically inter-multi-transdisciplinary theme, and this requires all of us to develop competencies of co-learning, co-designing, and co-teaching. For this, in order to support teachers to create this relational network, we adopted the framework by Ackerman and Bakker. This framework provides guidance to create and to inhabit an inter-multi-transdisciplinary space as a boundary zone. Here, the metaphor of the boundary is the basis to develop a conscious interdisciplinary language. That is, a language to act and think as boundary people, to recognize and deal with boundary objects, and also to name and activate effective boundary crossing mechanisms. Then the other net, the safety net made of knowledge. For this net, we have adopted 2 very well-known frameworks in science education. The first one is the so-called model of educational reconstruction, and the second one is the pedagogical content knowledge framework. These frameworks are very famous, very well known, because they provide guidance to design effective teaching modules, effective from an educational point of view. Designers and the teachers who have to design modules have in fact a difficult issue to deal with, because science has generated and continues to produce vast amount of incredibly refined knowledge, we have data, models, results, and recommendations provided by scientists in climate change. Also in Climademy, we have built a knowledge base on the drivers and the impact of climate change, and this knowledge base serves both as the foundations and the goal of our teaching activities. However, the designers, both the teachers and the educators, have the difficult role to take this knowledge and to work it and to shape it in order to pursue an ambitious goal. The goal to guide their students to understand this knowledge, to make sense of it, and mainly to appropriate it so as to develop sustainable way of thinking and consistently to develop the capacity to take agency to promote sustainability. In order to design effective teaching module, it is important to operate on knowledge through two different types of processes, through both a process of elementarizations and a process of complexification. Elementarizations means that scientific knowledge has to be shaped in order to be made accessible to secondary school students. Complexification instead means that knowledge has to be enriched so as to exploit its educational and cultural potential, not only to promote processes of meaningful learning, but also to activate the intuition and the creativity of students, and mainly to foster active hope. And this is fundamental and needed to imagine desirable future and develop a sense of agency. The model of educational reconstruction and the pedagogical content knowledge can be also used to elaborate a comprehensive framework for assessment that also, of course, contributes to guide the teachers to design and implement the teaching modules. Now I wish to mention other frameworks that have been important in Climademy from the research in science education and that became part of the pedagogical model. The so-called participant frameworks and the mentoring model called MERIT, elaborated in science education research. These frameworks have been selected to help in the process of planning the lessons and dealing in the classroom with questions like, what kind of learning environment do we want to create? How can we foster active and collaborative learning? How are knowledge and accountability distributed in my class? And how is knowledge generated, shaped and shared through the participant? Is this learning environment inclusive? In order to create this active and inclusive learning environment, Climademy also provides many examples of innovative tools and techniques taken from design thinking, game-based learning, and also storytelling approaches.
Climademy's approach to teachers' education adopts a participatory and reflective model rooted in the anthropological theory of the didactic for mathematic education by Chevalard, particularly through the framework called Study and Research Path for Teachers' Education by Barquero and Bosch. Building on its adaptation in the Erasmus Plus project Identities, Climademy articulates its activities through 4 progressive phases. Teachers as explorers. Participants engage in collaborative exploration to surface prior knowledge, goals, and shared concerns. Teachers as students. Participants experience selected classroom activities firsthand, discovering new content or methods. Teachers as analysts. Participants take a step back to reflect and analyze the activities through structured tools and shared discussion. Teachers as participants recontextualize and adapt the activities to their own teaching environments through collaborative design work.